The neon glow of Los Angeles flickered against the misty night sky. The city, alive with movement, was oblivious to the battles people fought in silence. Ethan Harper, 28, sat hunched over on a weathered park bench, his shoulders curled inward as if shielding himself from a storm no one else could see. His fingers trembled as he gripped a crumpled eviction notice, the bold red letters glaring at him like a final judgment. Final notice. Eviction. Effective immediately. He exhaled sharply. How had it come to this? Once he was full of dreams. He had moved to LA hoping to be an artist, a creator. But life had different plans. Years of rejection, financial struggles, and growing self-doubt had stripped away his confidence. Now he had nothing. No home, no money, no hope. That's when he heard a voice. Rough night? Ethan looked up, expecting another passerby offering fake sympathy. Instead, standing in front of him, hands in his hoodie pockets, was Jim Carrey. Ethan blinked in disbelief. Jim Carrey? The Jim Carrey? The man whose face once ruled Hollywood's biggest comedies? You okay, kid? Jim asked, tilting his head. Ethan scoffed, waving the eviction notice. What do you think? Jim smirked, sitting beside him. Yeah, I know that look. I used to wear it myself. Ethan huffed. Doubt it. Jim leaned back, looking at the night sky. You'd be surprised. Ethan folded his arms. Yeah? What would you know about struggling? Jim sighed. Let me tell you a story. Jim reached into his pocket and pulled out a small notebook. He flipped through the pages as he spoke. You know me as the funny guy, the somebody stop me guy, but what most people don't know is I spent years crippled by depression. Ethan frowned. Seriously? Jim nodded. My dad was a factory worker. We were dirt poor. When I was 16, we lost everything. I used to live in a van with my family. Ethan was silent. But here's the thing, Jim continued. Even when I got famous, that darkness never left. No amount of money, no award, no standing ovation fixed it. Ethan frowned. So, what did? Jim's eyes softened. I had to redefine success. Ethan clenched his fists. That sounds great and all, but I've failed. I've lost everything. Jim shook his head. You haven't failed, Ethan. You're at the start of something. He tapped the eviction notice. This isn't the end. It's just a chapter. And you're the one who gets to write the next page. Ethan exhaled. I don't even know what I want anymore. Jim nodded. That's the problem with chasing a dream someone else sold you. Have you ever stopped to ask, what makes me feel alive? Ethan hesitated. Jim continued. People think happiness is success. It's not. Happiness is peace. And you don't find peace by running from failure. You find it by making peace with yourself. Jim reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled check. Ethan's eyes widened. No, I'm not giving you money, Jim smirked. This is a check I wrote to myself when I was broke. I wrote $10 million for acting services rendered. Dated it 5 years into the future. Ethan scoffed. Let me guess, it came true? Jim shrugged. Yeah, but that's not the point. He leaned in. The point is, I believed in myself before the world did. And that's what you need to do. Ethan shook his head. I don't even know how to believe in myself anymore. Jim smiled. Then let's start small. Jim pulled out his notebook and handed it to Ethan. Write one thing, he said. Ethan frowned. What? One thing, Jim repeated. One thing you love, no matter how small. Ethan hesitated, then slowly wrote. Drawing, Jim nodded. Good. Now tomorrow, I want you to draw something. Anything. Just create. No pressure. No expectations. Just you and the art. Ethan sighed. And what? that magically fixes everything? Jim grinned. Number. But it's a step. And all great things start with one small step. The next day, Ethan did as Jim suggested. He sketched for the first time in months. He let himself get lost in it. And for a brief moment, the weight of his thoughts lifted. Days passed. Jim checked in now and then, offering encouragement. Ethan applied for a small freelance gig, just something to get his feet back on the ground. And then, one morning, an email arrived. We love your work. Let's collaborate. Ethan's hands trembled as he read it. It wasn't a life-changing opportunity, but it was a start, and that was enough. 1 year later, Ethan wasn't rich. He wasn't famous, but he was happy. Standing at his first art exhibition, he watched people admire his work. In the back of the room, Jim Carrey stood silently, a proud smile on his face. Ethan walked over. Jim smirked. Not bad for a guy who was ready to quit. Ethan smiled. Not bad for a guy who thought Jim Carrey was just a funny face. Jim chuckled. Life's a movie, Ethan. Are you writing the script, or just waiting for someone else to? Ethan exhaled. I'm writing it now. Ethan's first art exhibition was a modest success. While it didn't make headlines, it was enough to reignite his passion for art. People connected with his work, and for the first time in years, Ethan felt seen. One evening, as he was packing up his pieces, a young woman approached him. She looked nervous, clutching a sketch pad to her chest. Mr. Harper? She asked timidly. Ethan turned, surprised. Yes? I just wanted to say, your work inspired me. I've been struggling too, and seeing your journey, it gave me hope. Ethan smiled warmly. Thank you, that means a lot. She hesitated, then handed him her sketch pad. I was wondering if you could take a look at my work. Ethan flipped through the pages, impressed by her talent. This is really good. You have a unique style. Her eyes lit up. Really? I've been too scared to show anyone. Ethan nodded. Don't be. Art is about sharing your truth. If you ever need advice, feel free to reach out. As she left, Ethan realized something. He had become the mentor he once needed. A few weeks later, Ethan received an unexpected call. It was from a well-known art gallery in New York. Mr. Harper, we've seen your work and would love to feature you in our upcoming exhibition, the curator said. Ethan was stunned. New York? That's incredible. We believe your story and your art have the power to inspire many. We'd be honored to have you. Ethan accepted, but as the date approached, he felt a familiar wave of self-doubt. He called Jim. What if I'm not ready for this? Ethan asked. Jim chuckled. Ethan, you've been ready since the day you picked up that pencil again. Just remember, it's not about proving yourself to others. It's about staying true to your art. New York was a whirlwind. The gallery was packed with art enthusiasts, critics, and collectors. Ethan's pieces, which depicted his journey from despair to hope, resonated deeply with the audience. During the event, a reporter approached him. Mr. Harper, your work is incredibly moving. What's the message you hope people take away from it? Ethan thought for a moment. I want people to know that no matter how dark things seem, there's always a way forward. Sometimes all it takes is one small step. The next day, his story was featured in a major art magazine. Overnight, Ethan became a symbol of resilience and creativity. Ethan's success opened new doors, but he never forgot where he came from. He started hosting free art workshops for underprivileged youth, sharing his story and encouraging them to pursue their passions. One day, during a workshop, a young boy approached him. Mr. Harper, do you think I could ever be an artist like you? Ethan knelt down to his level. Absolutely. Talent is important, but what matters most is your heart. If you love what you do, you'll find a way." The boy smiled, clutching his crayons tightly. "I'm going to draw every day." Ethan felt a surge of pride. He realized that his journey wasn't just about his own success, it was about inspiring others to believe in themselves. Years passed, and Ethan's career continued to flourish. He became known not just for his art, but for his philanthropic efforts. He established the Harper Foundation, which provided scholarships and resources for aspiring artists. One evening, as he was preparing for a major retrospective of his work, Ethan received a letter. It was from Jim Carrey. "Ethan," the letter read, "I've been following your journey, and I couldn't be prouder. You've not only found your peace, but have also become a beacon of hope for others. Remember, the greatest art comes from the heart. Keep shining." Ethan smiled, tears welling up in his eyes. He realized that Jim's mentorship had set him on a path he could have never imagined. At the retrospective, Ethan stood before a crowd of admirers. "This exhibition isn't just about my art," he said. "It's about the power of hope, resilience, and the belief that no dream is too big." He paused, looking out at the audience. "I owe so much to the people who believed in me, especially Jim Carrey. Jim, if you're watching this, thank you. You taught me that life is a canvas, and we're the artists." The crowd erupted into applause. In the back of the room, Jim Carrey stood, a proud smile on his face. Final quote, Ethan's words. "Art isn't just about creating something beautiful. It's about creating something real. And sometimes the most real thing you can create is hope."